Hello, guys. How are you today? If you're here, I think you understand that blockchain technology has a lot of potential. And maybe you have heard about some problems with blockchains, about scalability. But have you ever thought about some kind of end game for blockchain technology? How it's going to look like in 5 years, for example. And I think it's pretty clear now how it's going to be in maybe 5 to 10 years. The current cycle that started with Bitcoin will probably finish, and we will have some kind of end game, some kind of final technical solution for blockchains in a few years. I think it's going to be based on the layer 2 narrative, which will be taken to the limit. And we are trying to do it first. I'm actually founder of Waze blockchain. It's an old chain, OG chain, back from 2016. Some of you know it. And now we're building this ecosystem of layer 2s built on top of Waves. That, in my opinion, should make this endgame for blockchain closer. So why layer 2 narrative is so important? You know that the problem with blockchain is you can't send too many transactions. And if you really want to make blockchains usable, you probably want to send a lot of transactions, because otherwise, what sense does it make? And this is a problem that we all are trying to resolve, how to send more transactions. There is different approaches to this, and the most promising is layer 2s. What are those? The idea is very simple, actually. So there is some kind of basic layer, a robust layer, where you create economic incentives and where you have consensus, which is the most important part in crypto. Consensus guarantees that make your blockchain immutable. But actual smart contracts are being executed on connected layers. So all those transactions are being carried out somewhere else. And the base layer is used only for reaching consensus. It's a very simple idea, actually. There is some other approaches, something like Solana, for example, where you don't have this separation between consensus and execution, but they are less decentralized. They are valid, but not so promising. And let's just maybe quote some famous guys like Vitalik, who has the same idea, I think, and I think Ethereum is going into that direction as well. The future is multi-chain, but not cross-chain, meaning that you will have ecosystems of interconnected chains rather than different chain ecosystems. So there's going to be ecosystems where you have many chains. And actually, the current narratives support this idea. You have pretty big modular blockchain narrative, which basically does what I described. It separates consensus, smart contract execution, and data provision into different, basically into different chains or into different parts of the whole setup. And restaking is pretty big as well, because restaking effectively creates this decentralization of those connected layers based on the consensus which has been established in the base layer. So the current crypto narratives support this vision of endgame for blockchain scalability based on ecosystem of properly interconnected layer 2s. But the problem is how to make them properly interconnected. And currently, this is not resolved. For example, let's take Ethereum ecosystem. You have Ethereum layer, and you have tons of layer 2s, tons of chains built or connected to Ethereum somehow in different ways. Be it zero knowledge or optimistic consensus, there is different ways to do that. But you might actually notice that all those layers are not connected with each other. And if you want to send tokens from one layer 2 to another layer 2, I don't know, from base chain to optimism chain or to Polygon, you need to use centralized bridges, which is very strange if you think about it. It means that those chains that are built on top of Ethereum are not interoperable. They are not interconnected in a decentralized, trustless way. And this is a big problem because it actually breaks the whole idea of decentralization, because you have decentralized chains, but interconnection between them is centralized, despite the fact that they are based on the same Ethereum layer. So actually, if we are able to launch those layer 2s in a very simple way, it should be easier to get your own layer 2. If I want to launch my own chain now, probably it's going to cost me I don't know, $500,000, realistically, So it's very complicated to launch my own chain, but a lot of projects require their own chains. GameFi, real-world assets, they all require their own block space or their own blockchains. And this process should be simplified. So the fact that it's very hard to do it means that we are not exactly reaching the end game right now. Yes, and actually, there are the main issues. I won't go into some other issues. Ethereum is working on that, and if you follow Ethereum, you will see that the thrust of their efforts is focused on interconnecting all those layers, and it's really hard to do it because Ethereum is a very established ecosystem, and you can't really move fast there, So it's going to take them some time, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, before they reach this interconnectivity for those layers. It will require a lot of new things in Ethereum. For example, maybe some progress in zero-knowledge proofs and something else. So it will take them a lot of time. What we are trying to do, we are trying to make it right now and make it faster. So basically, what happens in the ecosystem that we are building on top of Waves is called units network, because all those layers are becoming units of the whole ecosystem. Basically, we take Waves chain and make it a chain that is responsible for consensus and for nothing else. It has to provide consensus guarantees. And once those consensus guarantees are there, they are used for providing consensus into connected layers, in chains built on top of Waves. So those chains are being supported by validator community of Waves based on the consensus that exists in Waves. And each chain is supported by multiple validators, meaning that those layer 2s become proper layer 1s because they're properly decentralized. And if you follow layer 2 narrative, you know that very often those layers are being maintained on one server. There is one sequencer, so-called sequencer server, which supports the whole chain, which makes them not properly decentralized. But in our case, we have multiple validators supporting each chain. And this process is called exported consensus, meaning that consensus has been achieved on the Waves chain, and it is exported to those connected layers. And those layers are becoming not even layer 2s, they become proper layer 1s, because they are properly decentralized. This is like some kind of theory, but in terms of like practical things, what it means, what we want to achieve. We want to make sure that the process of launching your own chain is very simple. All we need to do is to make a governance proposal in the DAO, and if your proposal is accepted, your chain is launched like in a few days. And you don't need to run your own validators, because your chain is supported by the existing validator community. So it's very simple. If you want to have your own chain, you don't need to run your own servers. You just need to come up with some good proposal for validators and ecosystem DAO. For example, you have some GameFi project, you have a token, and you say, guys, I will allocate 5% of supply to validators and to the DAO if you support my chain for 1 year. And you don't need to run your own servers. You're good. Your chain is launched just in maybe 5 days. And let's go back to the theory again. So what this ecosystem is going to look like? All those chains will be like fully interoperable, because interconnectivity between them will be based on the same consensus that exists in Waze itself. So all that bridging between the chains will be based on the same consensus. So it's not something separate. It's not some kind of like separate bridges. It's the same consensus that exists in Waves, which makes the ecosystem fully trustless and fully interoperable. Also, we will have interconnectivity to external ecosystems. It's not fully trustless because it's impossible. It's impossible to build those bridges in a fully trustless, decentralized way. But if you launch your chain in units, you will get connectivity to other chains automatically. And it will also have restaking. This is something like some other kind of restaking. Basically, your liquidity will be staked in the original chain and in units. So if you bridge your Ethereum, for example, to units, your original Ethereum is still staked on original Ethereum chain. And you can also use your Ethereum in different DeFi protocols on units, which basically doubles your profits. And just to make a summary, what we want to do with units, we want to create an ecosystem of fully interoperable EVM chains based on Tuple Waves, based on separation of consensus, which basically remains in Waves chain, and execution, which is fully moved to those layer 1s, not even layer 2s, but layer 1s. This thing is called like either extended consensus or proof of restake. I like actually proof of restake maybe a bit better. And it's important to notice that all interconnectivity between chains will be fully trustless. So there is no like centralized bridges, and all chains connected in fully trustless way. And the last important thing that I want to mention, the whole ecosystem is going to be fully DAO governed. I think this is a big problem with existing ecosystems. For example, like Polka, they have, I think, the model that is pretty inflexible for launching new chains. And we want to make sure that all new chains will be launched in such a way that they meet the expectations of both the project and the community. So it has to be DAO governed. We have like a unique DAO model on Waves, which has been running for almost 2 years now, where good decision makers are being rewarded and bad decision makers are being punished. I won't go into details, but this will be used here as well. So basically, when you want to launch your own chain, all you need to do is make a governance proposal. And if your community approves, you get your own chain in 5 days. And actually, we are launching the first chain now, which is going to be called Unit 0. It's going to be launched mid-September. And its token will also serve as the governance token of the whole ecosystem. Meaning that if you hold Unit 0, you will be able to vote for new chain launches, and you will be rewarded by the projects that are launching those chains. So it will create some kind of like chain of incentives. You hold Unit 0 token, you get more tokens. And I forgot to mention, but it's important, I think there's going to be a very interesting narrative, hopefully, that will emerge. This is some kind of like yield farming for miners, because validators, Waze validators, will be able to support multiple chains in the ecosystem. So they might choose to support like 5 chains, and they will earn rewards from all those chains. So what we are doing now, currently we are running testnet campaign, TVL campaign. You can participate in it and help us test the network. The launch is coming, development is almost complete. We're going to launch mid-September with a token on major exchanges. There's going to be a lot of different things coming after that. First of them is launching new chains besides Unit 0, and there are going to be like chains that tap into different narratives. I think there's going to be an AI chain, RWA chain, DeFi chain, and so on and so forth. Also, we will integrate zero-knowledge proofs into the setup, and we will be onboarding a lot of new projects, of course, which is very important. So, once again, if you want to take a look at what we do and participate in Unit's launch, or if you want to launch your own chain, follow us on social media. Units.network is our website. Currently, we're running a testnet campaign. The launch is planned for mid-September. Thank you very much, guys.